Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Rogers. I'm a member of the Grosse Pointe League of Women Voters and a director on our board. This forum is for the general election on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Welcome, candidates and fellow citizens, to the League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe Candidate Forum for the Grosse Pointe Park City Council. Thank you to the Grosse Pointe Public School System for the use of this space at Pierce Middle School to host this forum. We also would like to thank Steve Garrissey from the Grosse Pointe Public Schools for video recording this event. The League will present this recording for viewing within a day or two on the League's YouTube channel. We ask that you now please turn off or silence your cell phones and devices. Individual recording of this program is not permitted. Our League has gathered questions from the community through our website over the last few weeks. Those questions have been sorted for relevancy, redundancy, and to remove possible slanderous content. This format will not allow us to submit all of your questions to the candidates. We encourage citizens to follow up with the individual candidates with any remaining questions and concerns. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed by the League. The League does not certify any candidate responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared by the candidates. Before I introduce our moderator for this forum, I would like to remind the community that the Grosse Pointe League of Women Voters is a 501c nonprofit. We are part of a national organization whose mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation by citizens in government. We offer candidate forums and other voter education programs as a service to the community. The League neither endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties. We welcome all, men and women, 16 years and older, to membership. Please visit our website at lwvgrossepointe.org if you are inclined to support our mission of empowering voters and defending democracy. At this time, I would like to introduce Susan Acton. Sue is the Vice President of Voter Services for the Grosse Pointe League, and she will serve as our moderator tonight.
Thank you. Great. All right. Good evening. Before I introduce our candidates, there are some people in the League I need to thank for their assistance with this forum. I would like to introduce the League members that will be serving as our question sorters, timekeeper, and volunteers. Our timekeeper tonight is Deb Sloss. The questions were selected in advance by a small committee, including Martha Hutting, Judy Florian, and Melissa Levasseur. Our greeters and hospitality volunteers tonight are Holly Corey, Kathy Cernak, Karen Feldman, Marge Frendel, Jane Rousseau, and Maria Williams. The format for this forum has been established by the League of Women Voters of Grosse Pointe. The format was received by each candidate prior to the forum. There are 4 candidates for City Council. They are running for 3 open seats, each of which are 4-year terms. In alphabetical order, our candidates for the council are Thomas J. Caulfield, Patrick Gleason, Olga Merametdjian, and Max Wiener. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make an opening statement not to exceed 2 minutes, and the order has been determined by drawing lots just prior to this event. The timekeeper will hold up a card, please demonstrate, to 30 seconds remaining, and a card indicating stop when time has expired. Following their opening statements, the candidates will be answering, in alternating order, written questions from the community. As the moderator, I reserve the right to close discussion on a question. At the end of the question period, each candidate will have the opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement. That will be in reverse order of the opening statements. An important part of our format is that there are to be no questions or comments from the floor during this forum. All questions are to be asked by me from the written questions submitted earlier. Also, I am asking that the audience refrain from applauding or otherwise audibly reacting until the end of the forum. We will begin with the candidates' opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to present their opening statement, and we will begin with Ms. Merametdjian.
I'd first like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to introduce myself, and I'd also like to thank everyone here in attendance. I really appreciate that you took the time to come out and get to know us. My husband and I have been residents for nearly a decade. We moved here in 2016. We absolutely love this city. We're choosing to grow old here. This is why I hope to be given the honor to be a city council member. If I'm given the privilege, I will dedicate the time and effort needed to maintain the quality of life the residents pay for and expect. My phone number is 586-822-5295, and my Facebook page is Olga for GPP City Council, and I'm available to all community members for any questions or concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yes, thanks again for the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It's a very important part of this procedure. I just wanted to give you a little background about myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Grosse Pointe Park, grew up here, attended Trombley, Pierce, and South. My wife grew up in the park as well. We returned here to raise our family. Our children went through the same school as we did. So they're now out of South. Well, we have one at South. But being a lifelong resident, it's important to me, and I, again, want to continue living here until we retire and possibly beyond. And I'd like to see the city continue with all the wonderful things I had as a child for the new folks moving in as well. A little bit about my background. I'm a producer partner at Lockton Companies. We are risk management and insurance consultants. And I had the pleasure to serve for the last 4 years on the council as mayor pro tem, and saw a lot of big projects that we had that were really detrimental to the city that needed to be completed. And I'm proud that we've got a lot of those. We still have a lot of work to do, and that's why I'm running again, is because I want to continue on the excellent work that I feel we have done over the past 4 years. So thank you.
Mr. Gleason.
Good evening. I too would like to echo thanks for the League of Women Voters for putting on tonight's event, and also extend gratitude to the district for allowing the use of their facilities. It is a privilege to be up here this evening for the opportunity to run as your council member and represent this great community through our elected body for the next 4 years. I am an 18-year resident. My grandparents moved here in the 60s. My dad grew up on Berkshire. I grew up on Grand Marais, and I now live at Beaconsfield and Fairfax with my 2 wonderful dogs. I am out every day walking them, and I get the opportunity to engage with people in each of those walks, seeing it from all different perspectives. I cared for my grandmother for her last 5 years as she aged in place, which was the opportunity to see from her perspective how hard she wanted to stay in this community she called home. I have had the chance this summer to spend time with a wonderful lady and her young kids, seeing for the first time what it was like to enjoy the baby pool as an excited but a little anxious adult, making sure that the young ones under our care enjoyed the time. But seeing those city services from the different perspectives has truly given me the appreciation for what a special place this is to call home. We offer so many different things for so many different individuals at each stage of their life. And personally, and professionally, I am a consultant doing financial analyst work here, both here and in Canada. And on a volunteer standpoint, I am the current secretary for the Recreation Commission and treasurer for the Friends of Patterson Playscape nonprofit, while also having the opportunity to help out this summer throughout the various gardening and community efforts down at Patterson Park. This is a great community filled with residents who care. And the biggest challenge going forward is how we can ensure that that stability continues throughout the future while ensuring all the different needs and the people who live here at the different stages are met. So I look forward to tonight for the opportunity for you to learn more about myself and for me to hear the questions that you've all asked. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
Thank you to the League, thank you to the other candidates for participating, and thank you to all of you for participating and watching. My name is Max Wiener. I currently serve on the Grosse Pointe Park City Council, and I'm running for re-election. 4 years ago, when I chose to run, I ran with the intent of focusing the Grosse Pointe Park Council on what I consider its core responsibilities. That's financial stewardship, supporting public safety, and addressing infrastructure needs. When I got onto council, we were facing a $1 million deficit. We are now consistently realizing surpluses. We've completely reworked the budgeting and the accounting system so that it's now more transparent and accessible to residents than ever before. We're getting more resources for public safety. We're ensuring that their facilities and their equipment are being upgraded. We've also got a long-term labor contract now in place for public safety so they can ensure continuity. And finally, most near and dear to my heart is infrastructure. Currently serve as the infrastructure chair, and like many municipalities, unfortunately, we had a legacy in Grosse Pointe Park of neglected infrastructure, but no longer. We've completely changed our stance to being proactive. We have a capital improvement plan that lays out all of our planning, our expenditures, and our timelines. We've put over $6 million into flood mitigation. We're changing water mains and lead lines every year, and I personally put out a report every month so that residents know exactly what we're doing. So we've had a lot of successes, and we've done a lot of work in professionalizing how the city's run. I'm happy to say that my background owning and operating manufacturing businesses, I've been able to bring many of the best practices from the private sector to improve efficiency. But there's a lot more work to be done. And I hope that, again, I appreciate the 4 years that the residents have been afforded me, because frankly, we have very high expectations of service in the park. And to meet those expectations takes a lot of work. And I'm committed to, if you see fit to re-elect me, committed to continuing that work to make sure that you're satisfied. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I look forward to the questions.
Excellent. And so we will now go to the written questions from the community, and we will lead off with Mr. Caulfield. There have been major discrepancies and errors related to water bills. Many residents have confusion about recent bills received or not received. What caused the problem? How is the city rectifying it and ensuring billing issues will not continue to occur?
Yes, it is a hot topic right now. We've been faced with it. I've sit on the Finance Committee along with Max on the Infrastructure Committee. I believe that there may be some issues with them. The challenge, the reason I say it's if, is because the communication around this has not been very clear to our residents. I've received hundreds of calls over the last week, and honestly, I feel a high level to explain it, but I think our administration needs to come out and fully explain to our residents exactly what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason.
Echoing Tom's statements too, communication is the clearest issue here, but from the base of being at that meeting when they held the special city council meeting in regards to these water bills and the challenges brought out by it, the city's consultant that was working on this project opened up to the effect that the metrics used in that new billing were based on a system that was not fully understood to be the parks at the time. What the math they had put behind that was assuming that our water mains and meters were a different size than they were. So that base metric for increases was applied, and that is where the initial discrepancy came from. But going forward, communication is the key, whether it's to this issue or anything else, because the residents deserve to know what's going on in the city at every step, and that full faith that comes with your elected officials and also the appointed ones throughout the different departments. We all live here. We have every right to know where your dollars are being spent.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
Thank you. So Grosse Pointe Park has a legacy that we have to unpack and upgrade. Unfortunately, as I said, we had a lot of issues with water, sewer, and financing, and we as a body, acknowledge that we have to put money into changing over the water meters to address loss of water. We had a consultant that made recommendations on how to proceed and how to adopt more common municipal practices. Unfortunately, with a city that has built out infrastructure, as Mr. Gleason mentioned, the water mains and the water meters themselves in homes were somewhat irregular. So we had a special session, we went through and changed everything over so that we now went back to just the old system with the applied increase. This is going to afford us the opportunity now to address and change out the water meters so that we can tackle water losses. And yes, we do need to look at the billing and overhaul it and do a more concerted effort, but unfortunately, with too much haste, our consultant wanted to change things over, and we need to slow it down and do things right. I don't like blowing up systems. I want to slowly, incrementally improve them.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian.
I have to agree with Tom 100%. I think this falls on administration. The proper communication was not done. I believe if there was some kind of notification that water bills were going to go up, it would have lessened the blow and the anger of the community when they got those shocking bills.
Thank you. Our second question, we will begin with Mr. Gleason. There have been many complaints about the inconsistent performance from Priority Waste. How can you assure residents that Priority Waste continues to deserve the contract for these services?
I think deserve is a strong word. The priority waste contract that is currently in place will come up for renewal within the next year. And when that does, I would actively encourage the city administration to go out and receive bids from any company wishing to have city business. And in doing so, we would get to see what the market operations are. Should priority come out ahead of those responses, I would hold them to a higher standard than they're currently held under our contract. And while I know certain things are outside of city control in their business operations, they need to prove to us why we deserve their business anytime for another opportunity. But I think the onus falls on the city administration and us as the potential and current elected officials to ensure that whatever contract is signed by the city is done so with the full faith of us as a community, because this is not something that can be sustained, and it is not the service that the community deserves.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
So Priority Waste took over the existing contract, GFL, which went under. So unfortunately, it was a rocky transition. In the city, we have an obligation with them, we have an obligation to residents to try to work collaboratively with Priority Waste. Now, we also need to be realistic, and it's our obligation as members of City Council to be upfront and realistic with residents as well. We need to work with Priority until the contract comes up, and then we can try to reach out to other vendors and see what options there are. But as somebody who owns businesses, I work with waste management companies. We have to understand that we have a contract right now, and we're having to work with them to improve the service as much as possible, and then we can try to farm it out. But I'm not one just to complain. I actually want to work collaboratively and proactively. We've made a lot of overtures to Priority Waste. They're starting to improve their service, but it's not good enough for residents, and we're going to keep working with them.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian.
I agree with Max. We're stuck with them right now, so we have to work with them to get the best out of them. I've heard so many horror stories, so we need to get past that. However, city administration needs to be proactive. They need to get on the ball before it's time to approve a contract with another company.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yeah, I agree with some of the, most of the comments made up here. But I think it goes back to, and you're going to hear this commonality in my statements, is the communication aspect, not only with residents, but also between our vendors. And that's really the job of the administration. However, we need to hold the administration accountable to make sure that that's happening. They have increased their services. They have come to the table. They have discussed some of these issues, but they are doing so at a sporadic time, where if I was in the administration seat, I would be asking that they do that regularly.
Thank you. All right, on to our third question, and Mr. Wiener will begin. The Scott Center is due to open soon. What recommendations would you make to their leadership team to effectively integrate this facility into the community?
As I mentioned before, we need to try to have collaborative efforts. It needs to be understood by residents that the Scott Center is its own entity. In the city, while we do have regular communication, we have limited control or influence on what can and can't be done. So what we're trying to do is reach out to them, because again, this is going to be a gem for the community. You know, we have a legacy with how it was operated before. I'm stressing with the administration that we want to have a more transparent operation in terms of how we're engaging, what our obligations are. But again, I think this is going to be tremendous for the community, but we also need to be realistic about what our actual influences are. This is something I keep stressing. We need to appreciate the scope of what council can do, what the administration can do, and insofar as we have to make sure we communicate that as best we can to residents so there aren't unrealistic expectations.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian.
I believe that we should work with the Scott Center to bring in different organizations, different programs, such as school programs, to make a better community for our kids. They can practice different talents there and showcase them as well. And there's other organizations like Tuesday Musicale that they showcase musicians and find scholarships for them. So we can bring these organizations in, and it will benefit our community.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yes, I mean, just to repeat, not to repeat, but I do agree with Max that it is a gem of the city, and it will be a huge asset. I guess what I would be, and I already have been in conversations with them, the first year, I believe, is going to be very important on how the operations, and once we see what their plans of action are. And I'm asking them, and they've been very open and receptive to meet with not only the city administration, but even maybe possibly some resident input as well, depending on how the impact of their operations are going to impact day-to-day life for our residents. So I think it's important, again, communication. We need to have it open lines. It needs to be clear, concise, and we need to hold both parties, not only the city administration, but the SCOP Center accountable for working together.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
So to the question of how can the city work with the SCOP Center, the DDA is in that neighborhood, and they are working on renewing themselves for the next foreseeable set of years. A large part of that plan is set around how to support them from an infrastructure standpoint, how to engage them as a business within the Downtown Development Authority. And I was at the Main Street GP event over the weekend where I was speaking with the city's DDA director and learning from what she's done with integration into the businesses in her purview. And I was curious how we can integrate that both into the DDA and with the shop center as the anchor for that neighborhood. But I also wanted to be cognizant of the concerns of the residents who live there for the future events and the infrastructure challenges that will bring. Living in that area, I know how challenging parking can be, especially when an event goes on. So as has already been echoed, communication is the key behind that, both working with them and engaging the residents in the area before, after, and during the first forthcoming events to ensure everyone's voices are heard.
Thank you. All right, for question 4, we will begin with Ms. Merametdjian. Questions remain about the status of the sewer infrastructure. What priorities need to be addressed to bring this to completion?
Well, the city council's responsibility is to protect the interest of the residents, and it includes financial responsibility, extensive planning for city projects with pre-negotiation of contingency plans, and oversight. I don't know the meat and the bones of this contract. However, that's one of the things I really want to dive into. It takes a lot of work to plan. And using the principles of cost, schedule, and performance will provide the least disruption and financial burden on the residents while achieving our goal.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yes, being on the infrastructure committee, I can fully assure you that there has been tremendous amount of work done in our sewer system. But again, it goes back to that communication issue I bring up, is that our residents need to understand where we are, what's happening. We have been putting out a lot of data, as Max, I'm sure, will dive deep into this because he and I have worked on this a lot. But it is important. I mean, St. Clair Shores had a major rain event a couple of weeks ago, and my fear is that we have a little bit of a false sense of security that we are completely safe. 4 inches of rain an hour is not. We are way better off than where we are with the ERV, but I think looking forward into things on how we can enhance even more so what we have constructed and repaired already. That's what we are doing ongoing. Could be the addition of another pump at the pump station to bring more volume, but those are things that we're looking at. But they need to be communicated to the residents so that these questions are not continuously coming in.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
Nobody wants a repeat of the floods of 2021, but from being at the majority of the last council meetings for this year, I can attest to what both of these gentlemen have said and will say, in that the sewer and the infrastructure corresponding to it have been upgraded and are actively being worked on, but we're also in a different stage than our neighboring points. We separated the majority of this community's sewers in the 90s, and so we had a higher starting point to begin from in knowing that those are 2 systems underneath most of the town. As a result, it's a different pressure when it rains, and we're already aware so as not to repeat the mistakes from the past. Part of what the work that the city's been doing now is having an ongoing mapping to ensure the health and sustainability of the different sewers throughout the neighborhoods. So doing that in collaboration with doing advanced work ahead of the needs rather than being reactionary is the best way to continue that. And honestly, just a thank you to both of these gentlemen for the work they've already done with the sewers.
Thank you. And Mr. Wiener.
It's a shame I only have a minute. I could go over this. I studied this issue forwards and backwards for the last 4 years. This is my wheelhouse. I'm an engineer. But basically, the Cliff's Notes of it are this. We live in a city that was largely built out a century ago. We have about 40 miles of sewer under our feet, and I'm only going to talk about sewer, not the water mains. So one of the biggest things that I've been trying to exert on the city is to get a very proactive, methodical posture on how we're addressing it. So the next big issue that we're addressing with the sewers, and this is one of the reasons why we put out the increase in water rates, is because the sewers need to be relined. Again, there is a lifespan on these, and they're basically the most important methodology in dealing with this is to understand that a failure is exponentially more expensive than doing preventative maintenance. So right now, the next step is relining sewer before they start collapsing. Now, there's a lot more on that list to do, but we're in a much better place than we were, and now every year we're methodically improving things, and that's one of the big ways we're bending the cost curve. So residents have made big sacrifices, but we're doing real important work.
Thank you. Our next question, question 5, we will begin with Mr. Caulfield. Is there a plan to upgrade the parking meters in West Park or other parking zones in the city? Is the intention to align with the Grosse Pointe City and Farms parking remedy?
Yes, the short answer to that is yes. Being on, as the chair of the ordinance committee, we rewrote all of our ordinances, and part of that was really getting everything on a baseline basis so that everything is kind of flowing together. We're not going to get another app or additional app. We will be working with all the other communities on what they're doing. The West Market area we had a plan to get parking meters. I'm not sure where that sits. I think it's still in play as they're waiting for the Charlevoix redo and some other areas along Mack Avenue, because it will all be done at once.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gleason, same question.
Not being privy to the details on a day-to-day basis and only having the information available to the public at the council meetings, I can attest that this has come up in discussion before as a future plan. As to where it stands currently, I am unaware, but I do know the need for a better cohesive process to go to park throughout the community and to ideally do it in collaboration with the other points. And to me, that's a consistent theme, is continued collaboration with not just the neighboring points, but all of our regional partners at the different levels, because you want that seamless integration for every part of your lives in what can often be the most frustrating part. So I think this is an opportunity to add to that, to our list of ideas in which we can work together with those around us for the common good of all the residents and those who visit here.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
The short answer is yes, and it is in the works. Unfortunately, this is a large project which we're trying to roll out, and one of the biggest things that we were trying to do in city administration now is efficiencies. So trying to make sure that the rollouts consolidate and conform with, the upgrades to the website, with the software. Yes, there were discussions about using the same software package or software suite as the city, but that's not what is going to be done. But yes, we're methodically rolling it out, but it's going to take a little bit more time.
And Ms. Merametdjian.
Well, I know about parking meters. I'm not aware of the plan. However, I think it's important for fairness, all the other areas of the city have parking meters. It's only fair for that area, and it is actually a beneficial thing to the business owners because people will park there forever and ever, and it will hinder business.
Thank you. All right, the next question will go to Mr. Gleason first. Is the recent ordinance related to short-term rentals in Grosse Pointe Park working as it was intended, or do issues remain?
Given that this is an ordinance that covers something that is essentially out of the scope of local municipalities based on state and federal decisions, I think issues will prevail as long as that is not within control of the local communities. But it is one that is tied to discussion and other ordinances that could be done that are under the city scope, such as quality of life, one's daily maintenance or regular maintenance, and the ensuring that the neighborhood around it is held to the same compliance standards or for the benefit of those residents in that area as it would be with any other home or apartment, whether or not it is short-term rental. I know that it is something that has come up for feedback on the community pages and walking around town of people having concerns. Even if the building itself is being maintained, there's the idea that not everyone wants to live next to a property where residents are coming and going. There's the comfort of knowing that someone is going to be consistently in your neighborhood. I think there's a balance to ensure that while it can't be within the city's control to regulate them to the way we want, it can be done through other various means to ensure the benefit of all the residents are met.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
So yes, the ordinance is working as intended and as well as it can. Scope is an important word. It's unfortunate that too often people in positions of authority will make promises that can't be delivered on. This is a very clear, well, not a clear-cut issue. It's short-term rentals are an issue throughout many communities, and it cannot be regulated, as some people have tried to express. So what our option was basically, you cannot infringe on people's property rights. We don't want to, one of my biggest fears is always to put out, knee-jerk legislation or ordinances that will then open the city up to liability, into litigation. So our option was that once people have already put short-term rentals into practice, what we could do is then put out an ordinance to basically freeze in place to ensure that more couldn't come out. So again, given the authority that we have, that was the best that we could come up with. And again, this is why it's so important that people running for positions understand what their actual authority is and what the legal authority is, because too often we make promises or set expectations that cannot be met.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian.
Max had a great point. We cannot infringe on people's property rights. From what I understand, I have not heard any issues or any complaints from the people I know. However, there may be. There is a fine balance between making the residents happy and living next door to a short-term rental. So we have to work on what we can do. And as we know, we can only do so much.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yes, to answer the question, I mean, the ordinance was written and it is working the way we had intended. But however, there have been some issues, which I've been personally involved with to make sure that they were corrected. Another thing to note is that this ordinance was written as a working, living document, which means as we move on, it's, yes, is it set in stone as an ordinance, but it is able to be adjusted. And so we wrote it that way because we were looking, as to Mac's point, to not put us at a liability state, and also to have a power that if we did find issues, and there are some, they're not as many as we all thought there were, that everybody thought there were going to be, but we can address those and adjust the ordinance down the road as needed.
Thank you. All right, we're halfway home. Question 7 will go to Mr. Wiener first. What do you see as the top non-infrastructure issue facing our city today? How have you or will you engage with City Hall or local residents to address this issue?
It's the same issue that faces all municipalities, legacy costs. If you take a look at our budget, a larger and larger portion of our budget is consumed by legacy obligations, pensions, health care. That's a huge concern, and we have obligations to our retirees. But if you take a look, $2.5 million a year of our budget is going to pension. Now, how do we address it? One of the biggest accomplishments, and it's not talked about a lot, was that we just signed a number of labor contracts. And what we've done is what we did in the private sector. We have shifted new hires to defined contributions as opposed to defined benefits. So while it's going to take a long time to realize the impact of that, down the road, we're going to have less and less liability. Because again, it's tricky. The more, we have money coming in right now going to non-services, to pensions. So we have to keep doing creative things, finding efficiencies, because frankly, we're a built-out community. It's not like we have a huge amount of vacant land where we can make new development. So we need to be smart about how we plan things and budget responsibly.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian.
My concern, and many people I've talked to, is the quality of life, and we need to manage and reinstate city services. City Council has a duty to defend every dollar of tax revenue, and without diligent planning for negative circumstances, we have become reactionary, resulting in less services with higher costs. What I want to do, if I am a City Council member, I want to bring a higher level of effort to explore creative options, such as seeking synergy and cost savings with the other points. We've done it before. We share the chief. We share the dispatch.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield.
Yes, to agree with Max, it is our overall to be just high-level financing, and it's with the legacy cost and the cost of everything going up that we use for vendors and you name it. It is important to have a tight, clear expectation on that. You know, that is why we have a new finance director. We have new 5-year plans, new 3-year budget outlays. so that we can attack these things so that we're not having to be reactionary, and we know somewhat what's coming down the pipe. It is an important topic. We have to keep our finger on the pulse of that because that is what's affecting all communities across the world.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
Echoing with the same theme, I believe legacy costs are our biggest current non-infrastructure challenge. As the Secretary for the Rec Commission, I can tell you that we have two wonderful parks with amazing amenities between both of them. And we have had the generous gifts of many philanthropic families over the years, but a large part of our a large number of our most high-demand assets at those parks are aging. And we have to decide what's the best way to utilize both parks for our current and future needs. And this is also applied throughout the city, but the Recreation Commission and the city just signed an agreement for a 5-year recreation plan to ensure the needs of both parks are met for the foreseeable future with resident and community feedback. Nobody wants a repeat where we're caught off guard that the ice rink chillers won't be turned on later this winter. While for the right reasons, people want to ensure that the amenities they're seeking to use will be there as needed, while that's met with the changing demographics and ages of this community.
Thank you. All right, on to question 8. Interestingly, it's a follow-up. Describe your qualifications related to budgets and policies and your engagement in local government. Please be specific about your public service on committees, commissions, and/or attendance at council meetings. Ms. Merametdjian.
Well, I've run and managed different types of businesses which require communication skills, understanding budgets, responsible spending, negotiating with vendors, intense planning for the worst and the best outcomes, and finding solutions. And during my time with public safety, I've met numerous community members. I know many of the residents and the business owners, and I practice discretion. I'm approachable and easy to talk to. I've built a relationship with community members. Lastly, my volunteer service. I've got compassion, empathy, and willingness to donate my time, which is really important. I want to donate my time.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield, same question.
Yeah, from a work aspect, as I mentioned, I'm a producer partner at Lockton, which we are risk and insurance consultants. I look at P&Ls all day long, identifying company risks. I have parlayed that over into the city council as well as most departments in the city to really institute processes in looking at finance and risk and how this is going to cost and how to manage going forward with more process. As far as volunteer outside of being on the Ordinance Committee, the Parks and Rec Committee, the Grosse Pointe Park Foundation, Marina Subcommittee, Infrastructure Committee, and the Finance Committee, that's what I do here. Outside of there, I do a lot of community work with United Way, nationally, and so I'm always willing to jump in and give what I can and what I feel that I can contribute. But most of it is really looking down to narrow down on what the cost and what the risk is on operating.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
As a financial consultant, I have a company set up for work in Canada and one here as well. I grew up with an entrepreneur who was self-taught for a father. His whole approach from our childhood was your only real experience can be doing the work itself from the start and from the ground up and learning as you go. As the Secretary for the Recreation Commission, while also sitting on the Windmill and Patterson subcommittees, I have the opportunity to see on a day-to-day basis through walking through both parks what's working, what's not, gaining that resident feedback as I walk the community with my dogs. As the treasurer for the Friends of Patterson Playscape, I had the privilege to work with several committed community volunteers in ensuring the restoration of that beautiful city asset. This community is filled with people who want to give back. Whether it's us up here, those currently elected, it's a gift to be able to work with people who know what it's like to give, ensuring the best for everyone. One of our greatest assets are those who are generous with their time, but also want to ensure that it's for the benefit of all around.
Thank you. And Mr. Wiener.
Thank you. So I'm trained as an engineer, materials and metallurgical engineer, so I've got actually extensive background in water infrastructure. As an engineer, I've worked in 2 continents, 4 countries. I currently own and operate a number of manufacturing businesses. So in that role, I manage payrolls, read financial statements, hire, fire, set capital expenditures, set preventative maintenance schedules. I've also served on a number of boards, both private and charitable and corporate. I also love volunteering my time. I coach, I think, frankly, the best thing that I do right now that's relevant is I've served on council for 4 years. I've chaired the Infrastructure Committee, served on the Public Safety Committee, work on personnel. So again, I think I have a skill set that's nested well, and it's a perspective that's been useful and a little bit different than the others on council. But again, we're a team of 7. So it's good to have a variety and, a diverse set of skill sets. But again, I think I've got a very relevant executive experience. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to question 9. We will begin with Mr. Caulfield. Is transparency an issue in our community's government? Why or why not?
Well, I think it's always going to be some sort of an ongoing issue. I know when we first took over, especially with the finance, none of the audits or reports or anything were online, so we have really done a lot of transparency work to make sure that those are at the residents' fingertips, just on the finance side. I think it'll also be, we're seeing it now more so in communication, and I would call this not a transparency issue. I think we have a pretty strong communication issue. And what I mean by that is clear cut, especially around the water bills. How did this happen? What happened? That's just one example, and I think we need to work on that to be more transparent on what the city is actually, the administration is doing.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
I concur with Tom that our current leadership, both elected and appointed, are above and beyond in terms of their transparency. They are forthcoming when asked questions, when approached, whether at a council meeting or personally, but this community had a stage in it where that wasn't the case, and all the current elected and appointed officials inherited the legacy that comes with that, and part of that legacy is rebuilding trust. So the communication that we've all stressed here tonight is so important, because to get us to that stage where we're maintaining that sustainability and the future we all deserve, it's sharing with the residents and those invested throughout town about what's needed as it's needed. I read voraciously. I find a great joy in reading all the different commissions and council meeting minutes for the other points as well, not just our own. But knowledge is power. I encourage every resident to read anything possible that the city puts out, because with that informed input, we can truly make the best decisions. We all have the opportunity to make sure that we know what we're looking for, but that feedback from the city is where it's most important.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
So transparency is critical, but also the perception of how things are being done. Unfortunately, we are wrestling with a legacy, right or wrong, where some people believe that the perception was that the city was not handled very transparently in the past. This is something that I wrestle with as well in my field. In manufacturing, you have the way things were done in the 1970s and the 1980s, and lots of older companies are remiss to change things over, but it's a new day. There's new technology. There's new ways for us to put information out for residents. But transparency is key, because residents need to trust what we're doing. Unfortunately, we sometimes wrestle with that where, people assume that there might be, malicious intent and actions. For example, when we changed the voting locations, that was a decision made because we thought it would streamline things for residents. It'd make the administration of elections far more easy for both administration and for residents, but unfortunately, because of the perception before, many people assume that we weren't doing it for the best of intent. So something we have to work on.
Thank you. And Ms. Merametdjian.
I believe we can do better. We can do better. And I think part of doing better is outreach and bringing community members, residents in to be a part of the decision-making process, to know about what's going on and have a part in it before an actual decision is made. I think that would be just incredible for our city. And, I'm sorry. And there's different avenues that we need to look at to reach out to people, because we do have an aging population, and they don't do Facebook, they don't text message. So I think that we need to find a different way to reach out to bring them in, so they can see exactly what's going on.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Mr. Gleason first. Have you experienced instances of mis- or disinformation creeping into city affairs? How have you managed this?
I think given this age with the prevalence of social media, we've all experienced instances of mis- or disinformation, whether intended or not. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But municipal politics, to me, are the most important we have, because they're where your vote counts the most, and where your character and integrity lie. And as people who are either currently elected or seeking that election, our words are our bond. If you lose that trust, it's gone. And as a voter and as a resident and someone aspiring to be one of the elected officials, I want to ensure that the information coming out of City Hall is not just correct, but heard in a way that's available to everybody. And as Olga pointed out, that takes different forms of communication these days, not just the city's Facebook policy. But when I've heard and had those instances of mis and disinformation, I've gone to great lengths to ensure that it's addressed by the proper city leadership, be that the department heads, the city manager himself, or one of the members of council. Because once you lose that faith from the community, it is so hard to get that back.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener?
Unfortunately, yes. I have faced that, and we've faced that on council. I just mentioned the example of moving the polling locations for voting. So, unfortunately, we can only control, or I can only control what I do. So I do my utmost to try to put down clear, concise information. I try to be very objective. I don't care for the rumor mongering, and frankly, as a body, we're doing our best to increase the communication so that, again, that information is out there and multiple avenues of that information. I also try to lead by or live by that virtue or value of give people the benefit of the doubt. The city is going to be trying to do different things. We're going to try to find efficiencies. We're going to make mistakes at times. Just, we're trying to put that information out and convey to residents that sometimes we make mistakes, but we'll do our utmost to try to improve it. And please give us grace. We will do our best for you. And again, if we can kind of live by that adage, I think it'll serve all of us better as a community and as municipal government.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian?
Unfortunately, misinformation is usually led by emotions and personalities. So if somebody doesn't like somebody, usually they're going to do what they can to cause problems for them, and it's unfortunate. But it also goes back to communication. If something's out there, we have to reach out to people, whatever manner it takes, to right the wrong.
And Mr. Caulfield?
Yes, the misinformation has come in, and again, when I talk about communication and process, it's, yes, we need to build a trust with our administration that when they say, or that residents can go to and say, what is the real story before the thing starts going off the handle, and that's what, it has happened. It's not happened as much, I will say, because we have increased the amount of communication. We just need to drill down on clearly so that there is a trust factor of, if I hear this, where can I go to get the right answer?
Thank you. All right, next question, we'll go to Mr. Wiener first. How will you reach out to the residents to gain a complete understanding of community issues?
It's a good question. So I try to be engaged, and frankly, I think there's nothing better than face-to-face and talking to people. So I've always tried to make myself available. In fact, you'll see with infrastructure, we've held a number of open houses, town halls. I try to put out my own updates and reports every month, and I try to be methodical about it. An attitude I've been trying to inculcate with the city council is we need to be methodical, and people need to have very clear expectations. We need to, for example, ramp up communication, but do so in an expected way. You can't just do something and then let it go. That's one of the reasons why my update, it's on the clock, you can set your watch to it. But I always try to make myself available, and again, I think an important thing to do too is, again, we're a group of 7 on council. So I think it's very useful when we have people who are maybe more specialized in certain avenues so that we don't have, 7 cooks in the kitchen necessarily, but we're all paying attention, all listening, and we all have respective areas within the community that we're more engaged with.
Thank you. Ms. Merametdjian?
Could you please repeat the
Sure.
question? Thank you.
How will you reach out to the residents to gain a complete understanding of community issues?
Well, it's really important to reach out to the community. Communication is key. I would hold forums, send out surveys and polls, not only through our social media, but through mailers, through door to door. I have a vision of making block captains so we can know what's going on in different parts of the city. What's the crime? What are the issues? What happened today with your water? What's going on? If we have more outreach and more information coming in, then we can make better decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Anytime a resident has reached out to me, I pride myself on an instant return and connecting the dots to make sure that whatever issue it is, that they get an answer to whatever that issue is, or at least they have their voice heard. My outreach has been, I am very open with my cell phone number on our website, I have business cards I hand out to people all the time, my email address. I mean, in our busy societies that everybody is busy, and this is a volunteer as well, it's really just the responsibility of myself to reach out and do. I mean, I've hosted, meet up here, meet there, let's talk. I think it's important. My only stand down on that would be that you don't want to counsel outside of the administration, because I think the administration needs to be involved in that as well. And that's what I want to focus on, is their responsiveness as well.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
I would continue with the same approach I've used while on the Recreation Commission. As the secretary for the commission, it is my responsibility to keep the notes during the meetings and then turn those in to city administration as the meeting minutes. Furthermore, I have been a volunteer at every event the city has put on since my time on the commission, because that's a chance to learn firsthand what's working, what people like, how they'd like to see differently. It's not just our 2 parks. The events we put on at those parks, as well as the After 6 events, are what people love to see and become engaged with one another. So from that experience, I've gotten to hear firsthand what people like, what they would love to see differently. But just to see that resident feedback up close, it's what this is all about. As Tom mentioned, we're volunteers. We're doing this because we want the better community. And furthermore, when I walk all day long, I stop and introduce myself to anybody I can to ensure that we're either meeting their needs, or we could do it in a way that would help make them feel a little bit more heard. And I would continue that theme, if elected to council, with the idea that always making myself available, but doing that in collaboration with city administration, because as it currently stands, when an issue is brought up to the parks, I address it to Chad Craig and his team.
Thank you. Final question, and Ms. Merametdjian will begin. Given the complexities of this office and the issues before the city, as we've discussed tonight, please describe your specific qualifications and experience for this office, and tell me your reasons for running.
Specific qualifications. Well, I can go back to my vast amount of time in management. I've managed people's businesses. I've taken their money. I've had to spend it in a judicious way and a responsible way. Money. I can communicate with people. I have had a staff that was so loyal to me throughout the years. Anywhere I went, they followed me. I have empathy and compassion for what people are going through. It's absolutely important. And I'm running because I want us to stay how we are. We're a wonderful, beautiful city with beautiful people. And I especially want to take care of our aging population and our children.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield, same question.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy for me. I mean, I've always said, and I think I said in my opening statement, that I just care tremendously for this community and its residents, and I want to see the continuation of success here in Grosse Pointe Park through all the amenities and all the residents. As far as qualifications, I go into companies more on a risk and insurance and collaborate with all different departments to find answers to whether it's a problem or a risk or a claim. And it's really getting everybody on the same board that has and structure a vision on where you want to go and how we're going to get there, and then disseminate that through a lot of, all the people involved. I also do think that a lot of answers to the questions and the issues that are facing this city don't just necessarily reside here in these 7 people that are on this council. It's really in our residents. There are many, many smart people that are a lot smarter than all of us sitting up here that are running industries, and that really, if they could lean forward and help, I think we have a lot of problems solved.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
As it stands with professional qualifications, as a financial consultant, I have done work with different clients, many of whom put out projects which I've responded to and won those bids on, that are either the same or identical to the ones the city currently puts out. So I've seen the standards as part of the Recreation Commission for those contracts, but also the ones brought before the council, and I know what works, what doesn't, but what's expected as the one responding to that as the potential contractor or consultant. And so some of the issues and questions that have been brought up tonight are accountability for the city contracts. Professionally, I know what's expected, and more importantly, I know what the residents deserve. Government exists for the benefit of those governed, not those governing. We're all volunteers, and as has already been brought up, it's not one personality that can handle those complex issues, and it's not 7. It's a whole collaboration that makes this community great, whether that's the commissions, whether that's council itself, the administration, or the employees, or just the individual resident who wants to get involved. It's a team effort to ensure the city stays the wonderful place that it is to live and call home.
Thank you. Mr. Wiener.
Thank you. So I spoke a little bit about my resume before, but let me elaborate in terms of how it meshes with the city. First off, I respect the role of the city manager and the city administration. I don't try to, force my way into anything, but I've got a skill set that's useful. So, for example, when we were planning at the EERV, I work with engineering firms. I speak their language. I can sit down with OHM. I understand exactly what they're doing, and I can communicate with them clearly. When the city was trying to get permitting with the state of Michigan, with Eagle, I worked with DEQ and Eagle for decades. I actually have those guys on my Rolodex. I know how to reach out to them. I speak their language. So I've got a skill set that nests very well with the city itself. And then I've got the work ethic to do it. I've been putting in a lot of time behind the scenes. Whenever the city needs me, I make myself available. But to the question of why I do it because I love living here. I love raising my family here. It's a wonderful community, and so many people have contributed before me, and I want to be part of that. I want to give back, and I really enjoyed it, and I continue to enjoy it. If I'm elected again, I'm happy to put more time into it.
Thank you. All right. We have finished our questions segment, and now we will hear the candidates' closing statements. I will remind them they are not to exceed 2 minutes, and they are presented in reverse order from the opening statement. So we will begin with Mr. Wiener.
Thank you again. So in my role running businesses, serving on boards, and now being an elected official, I'm often asked, what do I look for in a candidate? We talked about it a little bit tonight, but let me reiterate. Scope. Do the candidates understand what their role is? And do they understand not only what their authority is, but what the limitation to their authority is? What's their resume, their qualifications? What do they bring to the table that will assist? And finally, the work ethic. So I mentioned scope before. I was involved long before I decided to run. I was attending meetings. I understand the city manager form of government. And it's so important understanding that scope because one thing I don't do is make promises or suggestions of things that we can't actually accomplish. I've spoken about my qualifications already. I run businesses. I read financial statements. I do planning, capital planning, hiring and firing. As far as work ethic, that's one of my biggest strengths. Anybody who's ever worked with me, if you talk to them, they'll tell you I work my tail off. I'm relentless. I don't ever do anything halfway. I love the work that I've done here, but again, my commitment and one of the virtues I put above other things is dependability. It's the reason why I've got the best attendance record of anybody serving on council. But then when you tie it all together, what's the motivation for running? I said it a moment ago, I love the city. I could not imagine raising my kids anywhere else, but I'm acutely aware of how much goes into accomplishing what we've accomplished in the city. So many people have given their time, their money, their volunteer efforts to make it what it is, and I want to be part of that. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I've been given. I've served with relish, and I want to do it again. So if residents see fit, I would love to serve for another 4 years. Again, I've really valued my time here, and I'm really grateful for the city that we have. So thank you all. I appreciate you holding this and all of you attending.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason.
Further echoing that, it is a gift, again, to be up here tonight, just to have this trust placed in the community to have us here. We all put out the time and energy to get on this stage, the campaign, to go door to door. We talked a lot about trust and communication. While this is a volunteer position, it's also a full-time job. We don't just live here. We are accountable to each and every one of you now, and if the ones of us that will be elected, because we walk the same streets, we go to the same restaurants. We all want the same thing, for this to be the community we can continue to call home, but done in a way that makes us feel proud to be here. We have so many opportunities to continue the effort and the legacy that we've all come to enjoy and appreciate. I think there are further efforts for collaboration with both our regional partners, our area partners, and even the district. I mean, we're sitting here tonight using their facilities to conduct this event, not one of our own. And there are so many wonderful nonprofits and groups in this area, as with the League of Women Voters, that put these events on. We have the Join or Die event coming up at the War Memorial on the 1st. Right now, there are almost 50 nonprofits signed up for that. People who give back are just the perfect example of why we do what we do. We want to be part of that. That's the main reason any of us are up here tonight, is so we can do our part to ensure that this city is a great place to stay and to live. My great-grandfather was on the school board and mayor of his hometown. My grandmother was volunteered at church for 40 years. My dad was on the school board for my preschool. My mom's the president of Rotary. My entire family led by example. But the bar was set so high that it was never, good job. It was, what more can you do, for the right reasons. Please reach out if you have any questions. My number is 313-405-0400. My website is pat4gpp.com. we all want to hear from you now, and should we be lucky enough to earn your vote to be elected, because you deserve that accountability from each and every one of us up here and those currently on council. Thank you for the time and the privilege to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Caulfield?
Yeah, I mean, it really just boils down to, like I've said earlier, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, it's just I care tremendously for this city, and I want to continue all the good work that we have done. It is a big commitment, and to Max's point, I think the candidates need to understand how much of a commitment that is. It's not just showing up for one meeting a month. As I mentioned, I'm on 7 committees right now within the park. It's a big commitment, but I'm committed to it. There is a lot of work to be done, and I would like to continue on, and with your support, I hope I can. It is just tremendous to be up here. I'm honored to serve for you. I think we've done pretty well, and I look forward to doing it some more.
Thank you. And Ms. Merametdjian?
Again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, and thank you to all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear us and to get to know us a little bit. I really appreciate it, and I know everyone else does. I am up to the task to use my business skills, my skills I've obtained through working with public safety, and the internal skills I have through the volunteer service I do. It would be a pleasure to serve as a city council member, this city that I love dearly. And if you want to talk to me, I'm more than happy to talk. I'm available at any time. My number is 586-822-5295. You can reach me also on Facebook. It's Olga for GPP City Council. And I thank you all for being here again.
Thank you. Can we give a round of applause for these candidates? All right, I have a few final notes. This forum will be available for viewing on the League of Women Voters website, on our YouTube page within a few days. It will be linked on our website. Remember that the League of Women Voters has an online voter guide covering this race. It is at vote411.org, and that is linked to our website at lwvgrossepointe.org. Absentee ballots will be available to voters beginning tomorrow, September 24th. You may mail yours back. We recommend that option if there are at least 2 weeks before the election, or you may use the drop box outside of City Hall to return your ballot at any time up to Election Day. And finally, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Polls will be open at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening. All polling locations for Grosse Pointe Park are at Windmill Point Park. If you are in Precinct 1 or 2, please vote at the Tompkins Community Center. All other park precincts will be welcomed at the Lavins Activity Center to vote in person on Election Day. Your vote is your voice. Please make a plan to vote and make it a priority. Let's have another round of applause for our candidates. Thank you. Have a good evening.